Hello, this is Bipin Shah. I am the CEO of Kovair and would like to welcome you to VSMP VSDP webinar from Kovair, which will be conducted by Akshay Sharma, who is the CTO of Kovair. Let me give you a very quick and brief background on Akshay. Akshay has been in his prior life, comes from telecommunications background, and has spent a decade at Gartner being a senior analyst at Gartner, and has been with Kovair for almost 2 years now. Akshay has done a lot of work in the value stream management work, and brings to us the expertise that Kovair is relying on to bring this to all of our customers and prospects. So you will be hearing some interesting things from Akshay's presentation. And since this is only a 30-minute webinar, we want to be efficient and prompt. So let me hand it off to Akshay, and when he's done, we'll be conducting a Q&A session, which I will try and moderate. Thank you. Akshay, go ahead.
Thank you, Bipin. Welcome, everyone, and pleased to speak to you folks. So I'll be talking about value stream management platforms and value stream delivery platforms for DevSecOps. So what is the problem that we're trying to address? What we're finding out is, according to many analyst firms, and since I used to be with one at Gartner, we're finding out that the attack surface vector is becoming pretty broad. In fact, Gartner has predicted that the #1 security vulnerability by 2022, which is only 8 months from now, will be through exposed APIs. And so how do you address that? But we've also seen botnets. We've seen open source vulnerabilities. We've seen a lot of issues with regards to that. Now, as we migrate to the cloud, there's vulnerabilities there. And so how do you address all this? These are some of the topics we will be talking about, but not just talk about cybersecurity on its own, but actually in conjunction with what value it brings to the company. Because there's always going to be some vulnerability or some exposed issue, but if the probability of it occurring or being exposed in the real world is negligible, then maybe that's something you could defer. But if something is an exposed API or an open source software that has a botnet in it, that has to be addressed right away. And so how do you decide this? And that's where value stream management comes in. That's where this notion of shift left testing, bringing testing that used to be a big bang integration test at the end of the life cycle of software development, now bringing it to the earlier parts, doing simulations, doing model-driven analysis, doing other types of approaches to detect issues before they happen. And so we'll talk a bit about that. A little bit about Kovair. You'll see Kovair spans a pretty broad spectrum of solutions, from the ideation part, where you capture requirements from customers, and Kovair has tools and platforms to integrate with best-of-breed requirements capture, to the creation part, where you're developing designs and software development, to the release management with project lifecycle management, portfolio and project management capabilities, release management, continuous integration and continuous delivery within the DevOps world, Kubernetes type capabilities as well, to then in the operational world, where you've delivered it to the cloud and you need to do performance monitoring. You may need to do mean time between failure of parts and capture let's say risk management aspects of a part, or supply chain management with logistics. All of these come in the operations world, and you need tools and platforms to monitor for that. And then tied into all of this is Kovair's Omnibus, which is a Gartner Cool Vendor recipient in the past and is a enterprise service bus to connect all these dots. It is a service bus with role-based policy controls, with encryption for security, and then it also has best-of-breed integration with third-party solutions, from the ERP world to the CRM world, to even the software development world, to even operational tools like App Dynamics or New Relic, or things to monitor in the cloud as well. So Omnibus is a very powerful platform on its own as well, which I'll talk about as well. So a bit about how these all connect. So we've got a workflow engine with ALM Studio, and a lot of these things require a process or a workflow. And one of the cool things that we have at Kovair is a task-based concurrent flow charting tool, if you will, that you can actually model the workflow. And these could be tasks that are done by computers and applications, like pipeline as code, for example, or these could be human tasks where someone has to review a document and sign off on its let's say being accepted. To then project and portfolio management with Kovair's PPM tools, where you need to have all of these with Gantt charts and timelines, and you have complete visibility of, let's say, resources, who's assigned to what are the costs associated with these resources, and the timelines. And so you could see right off the bat, these are elements that can contribute to the value stream aspects of value stream management. At the end, the value stream is a flow of process workflows with hopefully a business outcome. And that business outcome is what leads to revenue to your organization. Hopefully it's through maybe the sale of a product or a sale of a service, and that's what you're trying to orchestrate. And so through the Omnibus I mentioned, you have complete workflow orchestration, and it acts like an integration platform as a service to connect to all kinds of applications. And then the last pillar is Kovair DevOps, and that's where you can have the agile service delivery in the cloud with the tools like the CI/CD capability that I mentioned. So Kovair PPM. So one of the key parts in this value stream management is this notion of management. How do you manage it? The old adage, if you can't measure something and you aren't reporting on it, it's hard to manage. And so this is where Kovair PPM comes in, where you can do resource management, as I mentioned, portfolio planning, reporting, risk management. Let's say you have mean time between failure of a part, and there's a hazard and risk management component to it. It can be captured within the Kovair PPM tool. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of pillars in this. So 3 aspects of portfolio management, project management, program management are all part of this solution. Now, I mentioned this workflow concept. So at the end of the day, a lot of processes have some sort of workflow, like a flow chart. And this is part of the Kovair platform, where you can actually describe the workflow. And in this case, these could be concurrent workflows. In many cases, the teams can be doing multiple projects at the same time or using multiple methodologies. Speaking about Gartner, Gartner invented this notion of bimodal IT about a decade ago, where you would have mode 1 and mode 2, where you would have legacy application lifecycle management, or the classic waterfall software delivery model, and then the new agile DevOps-based workflow as well. And so in this case, you could have both modeled, where both teams start and they both perhaps go through different task-based activities, and then you just model the flow and see where you are. And as things get approved or rejected, these could be captured in the tool itself, and you could see right off the bat the status of where you are within the workflow. Now, DevOps and then DevSecOps. DevSecOps is you could say the addition of security within the DevOps tool chain. And so in DevOps, you have this notion of agile service delivery, but with security, now you want to bring things like secure plugins to your development environment. Maybe your API needs to be made secure. As I mentioned, Gartner had predicted by 2022, the #1 security vulnerability will be through exposed APIs. So that's one thing you may want to address right away. And one way of doing it is perhaps you plug in that API, don't expose it, but you expose a software bus API like the Kovair Omnibus, which can have encryption, can have role-based policy controls, and can have dashboards to see how that API is in use. And so that could be one way of doing it. Other ways could be, let's say you have open source modules and you want to do security vulnerability assessments. Kovair has partners like Veracode and HCL AppScan that can do security vulnerability assessments. There could even be vulnerabilities in the running systems. So Kovair has partnered with AppDynamics as an example, from Cisco systems, and they've got security log files that are monitoring, how things are running in the real world. And so these could all be continuously monitored and deployed in a heterogeneous manner, on-prem or in the cloud, legacy ALM to newer DevOps and DevSecOps, all holistically done end to end. And we call that concurrent multimodal IT to leverage off of the Gartner concept of bimodal IT. Now we take it to another level. Now, what does Gartner say is needed? Well, this is from one of their compliance automation for DevOps capabilities chart. And this table you see, they've got all kinds of compliances that they have identified, like exposed APIs, like infrastructure compliance with policy enforcement, like application code compliance with auditable and traceable reports, with test tool integration, like databases and compliance to your, and it doesn't have to be a database. It could be an unstructured data lake, and how compliant is that? And then you've got the open source software compliance. How trusted is the open source modules that you're bringing into your organization? Do you have policy enforcement with workflows? Do you have role-based policy controls? Do you have various templates for regulatory compliance? I mentioned here ISO 26262. That's the autonomous vehicle standard for self-driving vehicles. But there's other compliances. We've heard about Sarbanes-Oxley in the fintech world. We've heard about security and risk management compliance like ISO 27001 to 27005. And there's other compliances out there. And how do you ensure that your development teams are developing with that in mind? And so these are some of the things that Kovair, with its open APIs and tools and processes in place, can help along this journey. So next is this notion of DevSecOps with a comprehensive solution. Ideally, what we're trying to build is a one-click DevSecOps, with drag and drop enablement. I used to be with case tool companies in the past, in the 90s. Object Time became Rational Rose Real Time. Telelogic Doors also got acquired by IBM and became part of the IBM Rational. And the notion there was graphical modeling of systems. And ideally, the goal was actually to have low code or no code drag and drop enablement of solutions. And maybe in the 2000s that went away. We became more code based with a lot of code development. But it looks like now, lately in the past year or two, I've seen a lot of startups and a lot of activity in this notion of low code, no code, drag and drop enablement. And guess what? Kovair also supports that as well with our own drag and drop enablement of solutions. So some of the value propositions we're bringing, as I just mentioned, we provide the low-code, no-code, drag and drop configurable, task-based, continuous integration and continuous delivery pipeline for DevOps delivery. We support various process adherence and compliance methodologies, which can be both manual and automated. We monitor and manage these pipelines across various projects, and we provide complete visibility to the value stream per policy, per governance rules, maybe even cybersecurity rules with best-of-breed partners. We can support edge computing. So you'll see a lot of notions in 5G right now with edge computing as a form of you could say, as a way to achieve digital transformation. You're going to see newer things like Kubernetes clusters and containerization, partners like Red Hat with their OpenShift solutions, and we enable all of that as well. But we don't do it with just next-gen tools. We also have the legacy, ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, and we can help companies transition. And then with the Omnibus as an integration platform as a service, we can connect the dots there as well. So back to this journey, this infinity loop, we have a lot of the capabilities with the analytics, with the visibility. We bring in a lot of third-party tools. So I mentioned HCL AppScan and Veracode as an example. And I mentioned also Cisco App Dynamics. So we basically can follow through the entire journey with you and your development teams as you go from ideation to development and design to testing and then to the field with operations and monitoring. We have complete solutions spanning the entire spectrum. And then as you're going through this, you need project management, you need hooks to, let's say, ERP systems like SAP, or for logistics, or CRM like Salesforce, or Microsoft Dynamics. We have all the plugins there too. So now, as you go through this journey, there's going to be a lot of, you could say, APIs that need to be managed. We have a RESTful API platform as well. And so, as I mentioned, this notion of security and vulnerabilities, well, guess what? Your APIs can be good and bad. So exposing an API is a way to maybe create newer microservices and microtransactions. Think of a restaurant that wants to open up their order management system. Maybe before it was all manual. You called the restaurant and someone would take down the order. Then maybe you put a phone IVR, interactive voice response, that would take the order, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, type in your address, say your name, maybe it does some speech recognition. And so we're starting to see newer applications like that. But now maybe you're a services company and you want to do now web-based and mobile-based order management, and you open up an API for that. Or maybe you're doing B2B, business-to-business type APIs between businesses, and you're creating an exposed API for order management. So that could be a good thing, but it has to be done with process compliance and security. Hopefully the open APIs have disaster recovery as a service built in case your servers go down, or in case there's some load balancing issues that come in. So we have best of breed partners there too that we've integrated the Kovair Omnibus with. So as you go down this journey, VSMP, value stream management platforms, and value stream delivery platforms kick in. The management is how you manage the journey. So you have the dashboards, you have governance, you have policy, you have all these regulatory aspects. And the VSDP, the delivery, is all about how you continuously integrate and continuously deliver the solutions. In a Gartner study, ironically, this January, they stated that in a survey, they found the number one requirement from CIOs and CTOs they surveyed was to have a combined VSMP and VSDP solution. And guess what? That's what Kovair brings to the table. So it's not just management for management's sake, and you're just appeasing the project managers. And it's not just for software developers and software engineers and appeasing the software delivery people. It's having a combined view of everything end to end holistically. And ideally, this is done with both testing, delivery of software, the requirements team, the marketing teams, the operations teams, all working together, all with common, you could say, metrics, common tools, common platforms, common goals and aspirations, all on the same page. Otherwise, there could lead to conflicts if there's no visibility end to end. So some of the plugins that we plug in, we've got all the major ones that we've partnered with, including our own tools, but we also have, if you need Red Hat, Kubernetes type capabilities, we have plugins there. We have cloud-based integrations with Google Cloud, Azure Cloud, AWS Cloud. We have complete collaboration. So if you want Slack or Microsoft Teams integration, we have partners like that as well. And then throughout the entire journey, we have other aspects as well. Test management, for example, with Selenium as an example, to even the monitoring aspects, to even now this new area of robotic process automation, with companies like UiPath, who are in the news lately. And so by connecting all these dots, the idea is now we're going to synchronize the process tools, methods, and the people. Everyone's on the same page. Hopefully they're all aligned. They have complete visibility to what's valuable to the organization. And then, also have best of breed tools to allow for pay as you grow business models. So let's say you want to deliver to the megaplex clouds, but you find that the price is too high. Or in many cases, many times people will demo something in the cloud and forget to turn it off. And then a year later, the CFO gets a big bill from the cloud provider that, you were using all these resources, but you really weren't using it. You just used it for an hour, but you forgot to turn off the meter, and you get a big bill. The idea is now we're going to be, everything is just in time. Just in time manufacturing was a key concept in the 80s and 90s. Now it's just in time everything, from the software delivery to the solutions to even the demos. And maybe you just elastically want to demo something for an hour and then release it and then not pay for it after that. So within the CI/CD capability, we can do that with Kovair. We have complete workflow orchestration. We have complete process compliance, as I mentioned as well. So a bit about the Omnibus. I mentioned it did receive a Gartner Cool Vendor Award. It supports, low code, no code, drag and drop, mouse click configurability. And it has a multi-tenant architecture. So the idea is it's not doing one application only. It can actually, or serving just one user, it can actually have like a N-to-M type, like an enterprise service bus. Think of this as a data bus in hardware, like a microprocessor bus. Well, now it's applying it in software, and you can connect various tools or platforms or enterprise applications as well. A bit about the best of breed vendors we've partnered. So on the top half in green are the development tools. So these would be the VSDP kind of things. So the delivery of development tools and test tools like Jenkins, like, rational tools like Telelogic Doors I see up there as well, and others in the delivery of software. And then the bottom half in baby blue here, you'll see more enterprise applications like the ERP systems, like the CRM, the collaboration tools, the robotic process automation, security tools like AppScan and Veracode are included as well. And so now, by tying all this together, the question will be, how do you connect VSMP with all of this? So the idea now is we bring all of these platforms and provide a unified view to senior management, along with middle management and to the engineers, to the sales, to the logistics teams. ideally with dashboards that show where the bottlenecks are, where the resources are being used, and provide a unified view. We ensure process governance of the workflows so that everyone is hopefully doing things correctly per the process. We hopefully improve cross-functional collaboration by having seamless integration between the people, tools, processes. With the omnibus, we hopefully gain productivity because everything is connected seamlessly, it's secure. The omnibus also supports disaster recovery as a service. So if one of the servers go down or the link goes down, it maintains state information and can resync as if nothing happened. And I think that also improves process efficiency by having complete seamless integration between all these different platforms. So I know we've got about 4 minutes left. Last slide. Hopefully we've shown a bit about what we do for VSMP, VSDP. Again, all connected through the omnibus, and I'll leave it to Bipin and hopefully the questions. Like to thank everyone, and by all means, if you have any questions afterwards, you can also contact us at sales@kovair.com.
I'm sorry, I was muted, didn't realize. I'm sorry. Let me repeat the question. The question is for IT organizations, from a project delivery type of mode, internal service type of mode, how do they come to a customer-centric value delivery type of mode?
Okay, so the question is, how do organizations go and make this transition? And
correct.
So as you know, historically, people tended to be more project-centric or solution-centric, and now the idea is we should become customer-centric and value-centric. So what is the value we bring to the organization? What is the value we bring to the customer? And we prioritize everything based on what value we bring. So, for example, this could be, let's say you're a siloed enterprise within a large enterprise, and it's very difficult to see who your customer is. Well, maybe your customer is the adjacent department, and their customer is the end customer. So as long as you're developing value for your adjacent customer, your adjacent department, and then they in turn bring value to their end customer, you can still show value. And the question is, how do you now gear your KPIs, your key performance indicators? Everyone's, let's say, hopefully getting some bonuses or some sort of reward mechanism, and they are all motivated to capture the best metric they can get. And hopefully the metric is with the end customer in mind. And so that's one way of doing it, is you align yourself with the right metrics, and you then create the processes in place to ensure that these are the metrics that everyone adheres to.
Okay, so we'll take one more, and the next question is, for somebody involved in smart city projects, so how do you bring VSMP solutions to help there?
Well, that's a it could be an all-day discussion, but many smart city projects I've been associated with over the years, a lot of them aren't that smart, unfortunately. Some of these are just, let's put a dimmer switch on a lamppost, or let's put a traffic monitoring system, or let's put a camera and do some public safety surveillance. And while these are individually okay, But what we're now seeing is smart cities are more of a holistic now solution that spans multiple industries, multiple applications. And if I were to use a telecom analogy, we had QoS, quality of service. Well, then we went above that and we talked about the user experience. We went QoE, quality of experience. And now it'll be QoL, quality of life. And now the question is, what are the qualities that city or the campus people that live in the campus, what do they prefer? And maybe these are now metrics that need to be addressed, beyond just broadband or beyond just having a data center and let's say new entertainment services. But maybe it's now a complete holistic view of things. And so in these smart city projects that I've been working on, some of these take that holistic view, and that's where Kovair's value stream management view of things. What are those things that you're going to value in your end customer's viewpoint? Make it a measurable metric, like a KPI, a key performance indicator. Put a dashboard around it, and then continuously monitor and see how you're improving towards that goal. And I think that's where we're trying to achieve. And there's all kinds of, maturity models that I've presented on, and would love to discuss that with any customer or any client on the phone or any partner as well. We could have a follow-on discussion and go into a deeper dive discussion on that.
So let me tell the audience that for any questions, just email us to sales@kovair.com. And I want to make one more, have one more input before we close, and that is that Kovair, as you have seen from Akshay's presentation, goes beyond the integrations of tools. And so we have a couple of delivery platforms, DevOps, Omnibus, DevSecOps, and even the old ALM platform, where we can deliver value from multiple perspectives and multiple methodologies based on the customer's current state of, their IT operation and organizational status. So that is what I think we portrayed through this message, and we welcome any inquiry about value stream management to Kovair. So thank you all for attending and taking the time to attend this webinar. Bye-bye.
Yep, thank you.